Calling this meeting to order, please stand to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May I have roll call, please?
Mrs. Greenberg?
Here.
Mrs. Christensen?
Here.
Dr. Lim?
Here.
President Pantera?
Here.
Ms. Wani?
Here.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of agenda. Dr. Corson?
Thank you, President Pantera. Items approved by consent will not come up for discussion during the meeting, but will be approved when the agenda is adopted. This is possible since members of the governing board receive the agenda along with backup materials at least 24 hours prior to the meeting and have had time to review and consider all items. Prior to the agenda being adopted, members of the governing board may ask that an item be removed from the consent agenda and brought to the floor for discussion at the appropriate place on the agenda. Any member of the audience who submitted a blue public comment card prior to the start of the meeting will be recognized to speak on that agenda item under items for approval. I would like to offer the agenda as posted with one revision. On item F4, I am removing the recommended action for transportation field supervisor.
Thank you, Dr. Corson. I was just making a note of that. Prior to the start of the meeting, no blue public comment cards were received, so for that reason, no items need to be removed from the consent agenda. Does any member of the governing board wish to have an item removed from the consent agenda? Mrs. Christensen.
Yes, item F6.
F6. So F6 now been moved to G5. Okay. Okay. Again, this list of items to be removed from the consent due to blue cards, but there are none. We just moved F6 to G5. All right, so may I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda and recommended consent agenda items?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. I'm making some notes. One moment, please. F6, okay. Next on the agenda is governing board statements. Would anyone like to go first? Nobody? Okay, well, I'm going to go to my left. Mrs. Wani?
See, if I make eye contact, I know it's going to happen, so I made eye contact. I'll keep it brief because it's hot outside, and it just feels like we should talk less when it's hot outside. Happy summer. I have a graduate, crazy. Thank you to Horizon for helping me raise my child, and what a wonderful commencement ceremony and just a beautiful thing to be a part of. So just so much gratitude. Thank you. And just want to give maybe a little prelude to things to come. We're going to have some personnel shifts and changes, and I'm just excited about the new talent coming into the district, excited about the homegrown talent moving through into different positions to fill different positions. So super excited about things to come, and a really great, hopefully, upcoming new year. So thanks, everyone, and hope you're enjoying the summer and get some relief from this heat.
Thank you, Ms. Wani. Mrs. Christensen?
Thank you, President Pantera. I just want to welcome everybody here today, and I also will be brief. I do want to say a special hello to a friend that's in the audience. Her name is Ashley, and she's my friend, and it's her birthday today. We know each other from Highlands Church, Night to Shine, and we have been at the prom together for, I don't know, maybe like 7 or 8 years. So I just want to welcome Ashley. She's here to support a family member today. I want to welcome the rest of you that are joining in person and online, and happy summer.
Thank you, Mrs. Christensen. Mrs. Greenberg?
Also want to welcome everybody, and I'll be brief as well. Sorry I was not here as early as I wanted to, but there's construction out there again. I just want to give a shout out. All of us were at graduations, and I had the privilege of joining Pinnacle this year, and just wanted to give a shout out to Principal Richards and the whole crew. It was incredible. We were at the GCU Arena, and it ran like clockwork. It was amazing, and the graduates were extraordinary. So happy summer, everybody. Glad to see everybody.
Dr. Lim. Thank you, Ms. Greenberg. Dr. Lim.
Great. Since this seems to be the meeting of thank yous, I just want to take a moment. I know we all have done graduation, and that's already been mentioned, but for many people it was time to check out for the summer, but we have staff that are still on site in our schools that are doing things right now. We have summer camp going on. We have summer school going on. Our early childhood center is still open for our littles that parents need support through the summer. So we have lots of staff that are still on site in different capacities. So I just want to say thank you to those that are not taking the summer off, that have decided to commit to additional time in the summer. Often this is above and beyond their regular contracts. So thank you for being here. Thank you for agreeing to help bridge the gap for families that need that summer or students that need that summer school. Appreciate what you're doing and appreciate the time that you're giving on the months where many other staff members are enjoying a much needed relax by the pool.
Thank you, Dr. Lim. Speaking for myself, remember I told you last board meeting there's a student that watches every board meeting, and I said I waved to the person, and that student texted his principal, who texted me saying he waves back. So it's nice to know. It's nice to know that it was a true thing. I was presiding over the Paris Valley High School graduation, and again, it's a fun time. Anytime you get so many 600-700 students all smiling at the same time is a really unique thing, and I love that. And I love being part of the celebration, being part of their joy, what they experienced. Of course, this time of year, I'm all about the D-backs. I'm watching the baseball games. I love them, win or lose. And I was put to mind of a lesson I did once in 3rd grade at Air Libra. And we wrote to, then we just had the Firebirds, okay, Phoenix Firebirds. And I decided, that you're all going to write a letter to the Commissioner of Baseball requesting that Arizona gets a baseball team. And so they did that. And it turns out the team heard about it. They sent their coach, Fever. Yeah, he was a coach at the time in Channel 3 News Sports. That's the only time I was ever on the sports part of the news. And interviewed some of our students and let them read their letters. It took 20 years from that moment to get the team, but we got them. And the reason I'm bringing it up is not just go down memory lane, is because I forgot about that lesson. I totally forgot about it. But last week, a student reached out, a former student, and said, "Are you that Mr. Pantera that taught at Air Libra?" I said, "Yeah, I'm him. I'm still alive." And she reminded me of that lesson. See, a lesson, how many years? We're talking the 80s or whatever. I'd forgotten about it, but she didn't forget about it. She remembered that lesson, and it impacted her life so much that she remembers it now and shared it back with me. Just to show you that all the things we do here at this district touches people you don't even remember. The effects you have, you can't really predict, but they're beautiful things. That's why we get so many parents of that former alumni bring their kids to our district. They come here and work here. I'm very proud of this district. I have a lot of pride about what we do here, and I just had to share that with you all. Thank you. Next on the agenda is superintendent comments. Dr. Corson.
Thank you, President Pantera. In PV schools, we are committed to engaging, inspiring, and nurturing students through meaningful learning opportunities. And one of those opportunities is our dual language immersion Mandarin program. This immersion program offers students a unique opportunity to become fluent in Mandarin Chinese while also developing a deep understanding of the culture. Our Mandarin immersion program is so impressive. Students spend half the day learning in English and the other half in Mandarin, helping our students prepare for the future by learning a language that's in high demand. Recently, several of our students showcased their Mandarin skills at the Southern California Chinese Bridge Competition and the Southwest Regional Chinese Bridge Competition, where they took home first place in grades 2 through 3 division, first place in grade 4 through 6 division, and an honorable mention. And one of these students achieved a remarkable third place finish, nearly advancing to the world stage in China. Their incredible dedication made Whispering Wind Academy one of the top performers in the region, and we couldn't be more proud of them. I'm also thrilled, speaking about our graduating seniors, that in total they have been offered $146 million in scholarship funds this year. This incredible achievement is evidence of the hard work, dedication, and academic excellence of our students. While this figure represents only the reported offers, it speaks volumes about the bright futures ahead for our graduates. Please join me in congratulating these remarkable scholars on their well-deserved success. Next, I want to congratulate the Paradise Valley High School Future Business Leaders of America team for their record-breaking performance at the FBLA State Conference. 26 students qualified for the National Leadership Conference this summer, including 5 state champions who propelled PVHS to a top 5 finish. This historic achievement marks the first time PVHS's FBLA has placed in the top 5 for the chapter sweepstakes, notably outperforming chapters with twice as many delegates. Congratulations to these students. PV Schools proudly celebrates the incredible success of our student athletes from Horizon and North Canyon High Schools at the AIA Division II State Track and Field Championship, where HHS athletes secured 2 gold medals and North Canyon High School brought home an impressive 6 gold medals. We congratulate all these students for their remarkable talent and dedication. I'm also proud to announce that the Paradise Valley High School baseball team has been honored with the AIA Baseball Sportsmanship Award. This prestigious recognition is awarded annually to the school that best exemplifies the highest level of sportsmanship throughout the entire season, as determined by the officiating community. This achievement is a true reflection of the character and integrity of our student athletes and coaches on and off the field. Congratulations to the Trojans on this remarkable honor. And finally, tonight, I would like to recognize 5 exceptional students who have earned a perfect score on the ACT exam. These students from Pinnacle High School and Paradise Valley High School earned a 36 composite score, which is an incredible accomplishment and a rare academic achievement that reflects an extraordinary level of dedication and commitment from each student. Their success reflects their hard work and perseverance, as well as the outstanding support and instruction by the Paradise Valley and Pinnacle High School teachers and staff. Please join me in congratulating these and all of our outstanding students mentioned tonight. And President Pantera, that concludes my comments for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Corson. Next on the agenda is items for approval. G1, consideration and approval of administrative personnel employment actions. Dr. Holmes.
Thank you, President Pantera, members of the board. Amber Strang is currently a secondary math curriculum specialist here in PV Schools. She earned a Bachelor of Arts in Secondary Education, Mathematics from ASU, a Master's in Educational Technology from ASU, and a Master's in Educational Leadership from NAU. If approved, she will receive salary and benefits in accordance with the PVP bargaining agreement, and we recommend you approve Ms. Strang to be the next assistant principal at Shadow Mountain High School.
May I have a motion to approve Amber Strang for the position of assistant principal at Shadow Mountain High School as presented?
So moved.
Any board members wishing to make a comment? Okay then, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously.
Congratulations, Ms. Strang.
Is there anyone you'd like to introduce us to, Amber? Is that okay? Yes, it is totally okay.
I brought my loving and supportive husband, Peter. I brought Jack, who is a product PV Schools Portsmouth graduate. He's killing it at ASU. I brought my mom, who I call on the way to work every day, so she pretty much knows all of you. And then I'm an only child, but I have an amazing PV Schools family for the past 25 years, and a lot of them came here to schools. So I'm over.
Well, again, congratulations.
Next up, Marisha Garrity is currently a volunteer specialist here in PV Schools, and she earned a Bachelor of Science in Business from Binghamton University in New York. If approved, she will receive salary and benefits in accordance with the COA bargaining agreement. And we recommend you approve Ms. Garrity to be the coordinator of Volunteer in Paradise.
May I have a motion to approve Marisha Garrity for the position of Coordinator of Volunteer in Paradise as presented?
So moved.
Any board members wishing to make a comment? Okay then, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously.
Congratulations, Ms. Garrity.
Is there anyone you'd like to introduce us to?
Well, my family is in Ireland right now, but
Ireland.
I have my other family with me, which is my volunteers, my amazing VIPs. So
All right, again, congratulations. Good job.
Jeffrey Wilhelm is currently the transportation manager for the Arizona Autism Charter School, and prior to that, the transportation manager for the Civitan Foundation. If approved, he will receive salary and benefits in accordance with the COA bargaining agreement, and we recommend you approve Mr. Wilhelm to be the next Assistant Director of Transportation.
May I have a motion to approve Jeffrey Wilhelm for the position of Assistant Director of Transportation as presented?
So moved.
Any board members wishing to make a comment? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously.
Congratulations, Mr. Wilhelm.
Do you have somebody you'd like to introduce us to, sir? All right. Again, congratulations.
Darlene Baumgartner is currently a PLC trainer in the Deer Valley Unified School District, and some of you may recall she was the principal at Liberty Elementary School a few years back. She earned a Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Education from NAU, a Master's in Curriculum and Instruction from ASU, and a Master's in Educational Leadership also from ASU. If approved, she will receive salary and benefits in accordance with the COA bargaining agreement, and we recommend you approve Ms. Baumgartner to be the next Director of Professional Development.
May I have a motion to approve Darlene Baumgartner for the position of Director of Professional Development as presented?
So moved.
Any board members wishing to make a comment? Then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously.
Congratulations, Ms. Baumgartner. Congratulations and welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. Would you?
be back. I have my husband Jeff and my daughter Amy, and I have just lots of familiar faces in the room that have been family over the years. So thank you.
Congratulations again. Good job.
And finally this evening, Shelley Strophus is currently the principal at Horizon High School. She earned a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration from the University of South Carolina and a Master's in Educational Leadership from Boise State University. If approved, she will receive salary and benefits consistent with the PVP bargaining agreement, and the COA bargaining agreement, and we recommend you approve Ms. Strophus to be the next Director of Student Services Secondary.
May I have a motion to approve Shelley Strophus for the position of Director of Student Services Secondary as presented?
So moved.
Any board members wishing to make a comment? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously.
Congratulations, Ms. Strophus.
Thank you so much. I left my husband back home making dinner for the very exhausted little summer campers.
And again, congratulations. That's it? We're not hiring anybody else? Okay. Darn. I had a roll going there. Next on the agenda is items for approval G2, consideration and approval of proposed fiscal year.
Never stay.
2026-27 State of Arizona School District Annual Expenditure Budget. I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Berrigan then.
Thank you, President Pantera, Governing Board, Dr. Corson, and a few fewer guests. There we go. So I have before you this evening the 26-27 budget proposal. As a reminder, we proposed at our first June meeting. We adopted our second June meeting. Also, as a reminder, you received a little bit of information from me, maybe a lot of information from me about the short notice we get to put together the budget. This year, the budget forms didn't come out until May 26th. So Mr. Hutchinson, our Director of Finance, and I worked very quickly to put some stuff together to make what would be an accurate budget for us moving forward, and we believe we have all of the necessary components included. This is the outline. We'll look at our K-12 state budget highlights, though you should know the state budget is not yet complete. So we are making educated assumptions at this point. There have been discussions about what the budget will look like and how that will affect K-12, and there aren't actually a lot of changes. We will review the revenue assumptions, the expenditure factors, what that looks like overall for our budgets in the different categories. Property taxes, the truth in taxation for adjacent ways. As you know, we have to have a notice and a budget hearing for the truth in taxation. That also occurs along with this budget proposal on June 18th. But I believe it's important to have that information for our community on June 4th so that they can be prepared for any questions ahead of time if they should have any at the June 18th meeting. And then a quick review of our transparency and accountability, as I usually do this time of year. So right now, as mentioned, there's not a whole lot of changes for the K-12 budget highlights, but as a reminder, the aggregate expenditure limit, which is a constitutional limit that would cause reductions to school district budgets if it's not overridden by the legislature. In the 25 legislative session, they gave a reprieve for fiscal years 26, the current year that we're in, as well as for next fiscal year 27. So we know that we won't have to deal with those cuts for next year. There does need to be a permanent fix, though, in order for that not to continue to have to be overridden by the legislature annually or biannually. And just as a note, if the legislature hadn't overridden the aggregate expenditure limit since fiscal year 2022 up through this current fiscal year that we're in, school districts would have missed out on $6.2 billion in funding. And that's not additional funding, that's the funding that they approve in the budget. It's the base support amount per student for M&O as well as for the district additional assistance funds. With revenue assumptions, the reminder is that we have our main factors. It's the average daily membership, so the average number of days that our students are enrolled for the first 100 days of school, even though they're with us for 180 days. And then the base support level amount, or what people often refer to as the per pupil funding, that's estimated to be a 2% increase. The Arizona Revised Statute caps the increase at 2% or inflation, the lesser of those two numbers. Right now, inflation is a little bit above 2%, but we won't get any more than the 2%. So our base support amount, or the amount that we get in M&O per pupil, is $5,215.53 for next year. Additionally, we have the increase to classroom site fund, and our per student funding is increasing by $41 per weighted ADM. The weighted ADM is after all of our weights for our different grade level variations, for our students with special needs are added, then we get the multiplier of $883 per weighted ADM for next year. For our expenditure factors, this information's already been shared with the board in the second April board meeting, but this is just a recap of the salaries and benefit changes for certified employees, education support professionals, and then the PVP, COA cabinet, and executive administrative assistants. So you have a summary of what those were. And just as a reminder, each of those bargaining groups gets to determine what they're going to do, whether there's an increase to the budget or a decrease to the budget annually. Our other expenditure factors, January 1st of each year, we have an automatic minimum wage adjustment. That number we don't know until we have the August CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index, and that's measured from August to August of the year, so August of 2025 to August of 2026. That number will come out in September, but right now I'm estimating that at about 2.5%. We also have an estimate of our inflation costs to goods and services at 1.3%, and all of these factors were on that one-page budget sheet that I show you starting in the January timeframe. We used to estimate that at the same as the minimum wage adjustment of CPI, but after a couple of years of estimating at that, we were recognizing that we weren't seeing quite as high of inflation to our goods and services. We're seeing at about 1.3. We do have an expected utility cost increase. We are solely APS, and APS proposed increase is 14%. It's not been approved yet, but that's what we have planned for in the budget. We had a teeny tiny ASRS decrease of 0.02%. So that is included as an expenditure factor, a change or a decrease to that expenditure. That has a corresponding decrease to our employees as well, so not significant, but a little bit less that they pay into ASRS. And then we had our medical cost increase at 10%, and that was covered by our prepay balance that we already had. So employees didn't have to take on that increase. When you look at all of our budgets together, these are some of our main operating expenditure budgets, obviously maintenance and operation being the largest one of that at just under $260 million. Classroom site fund at approximately $32 million. Our Medicaid reimbursement at about $9 million. Indirect costs, which is the rate that we charge for any grants that we service, and we have the overhead costs for administering those grants, $4.3 million, as well as instructional improvement fund at a little over $1.2 million. Our capital funds include our unrestricted capital. District additional assistance is what funds that unrestricted capital fund. The DAA is kind of the revenue portion of it. Unrestricted capital is what they call it once it goes to the budget side. That's just under $26 million. Bond building estimated at $200 million. Remember, we have a school rebuild, so that's a large portion of that this year. And then adjacent ways at $4 million. We also have our federal and state grants, a little over $32 million for our federal grants, and about $4.5 million for our state grants, $4.5 million for our state grants. Debt service is the payment of bonds. We'll be paying approximately $66,000 in bonds this year. That's the payback once they become mature. We pay that back completely. Community education at $9.5 million, food service at $10 million. Insurance proceeds, we estimate at $200,000. We often don't get that much. And that's if we have an insurance claim, we get we have an expenditure that we might need to make to replace whatever might have been damaged, and that's the insurance proceeds for that. And then all of our other funds total up to a little over $32 million. For our tax rates, and you will notice in Diligent now, the board document where we have our board agenda, because of the short timeline, working on budgets, checking, double checking, triple checking everything this afternoon, I noticed there needed to be an update to the tax rate. So you'll see that we've left the old version of the budgets on there so people can see what that was. And then we posted a new version, and it changes the tax rates. It simply changed the primary tax rate. And then the secondary tax rate, it changed the Class B bonds. And I'll talk about what the differences were here in a moment. But this is just a summary of the actual tax rates for fiscal year 25-26 and the estimated tax rate of 26-27. So just to be clear, even with the change on those budget forms, the cover page of the budget forms is an estimate of the tax rate. That is not setting the tax rate in any way, shape, or form. The Board of Supervisors does that in August timeframe. They set the tax rate based on all of our budget factors. I put on there an estimated tax rate so that our taxpayers know when we're proposing and adopting the budget approximately what we expect the tax rate to be. So you do see that overall, when you look at the difference between fiscal year 26 and fiscal year 27 for the total of the primary and the secondary tax rate, it is a bit of a decrease at a little bit more than 16 cents or almost 17 cents. Moving into truth in taxation, which talks about the change to our adjacent ways. As I've shared in previous years, this is a little bit misleading in terms of what we're required to do for truth in taxation. But since 1997, districts are required to share with voters our intent to raise taxes for a few areas, and adjacent ways is one of those. Adjacent ways is I have a slide in a minute, but it's the ingress and egress, it's fire lanes and things of that nature that we need to do for the school district. And that is our only item that's outside of the budget limit, and they consider the budget limit for that zero, because in 1997 it was $0. So for fiscal year 26-27, we will be levying $2.1 million for that, and out of our total budget, we're at about $624 million. That's a very minor portion of our budget at 0.34%. Yet they require this very specific truth in taxation. I would much prefer that they included a requirement in the newspaper about our full tax rate, like the slide that I just showed previously. I think that that would be more meaningful for voters. So the legal requirement is we have to determine if we need to propose budget that requires truth in taxation, and we do every year. We always include adjacent ways projects. We publish a notice in the newspaper, so that's published today in the Business Gazette on June 4th. Is that today? That's today. We hold the public hearing prior to adopting the budget, which is what we're doing today, and then we will revisit that, on June 18th. And that will require a roll call vote by the board to approve the increase. And then we also notify the Property Tax Oversight Commission for what the result of that vote is, part of our transparent process. This is the exact verbiage that's posted in the Business Gazette for the truth in taxation and explains the increase. As you'll note in there in that second paragraph, you see that the taxes that would have been owed back in 1997 would have been $0. So it doesn't compare it against last year like we do for much of the financial information we're looking at. It compares to 1997, which was almost 30 years ago. So just so you guys have the information and our community have the information on that, our adjacent ways tax rate in fiscal year 26 was $2 and almost 24 cents. So really the adjacent ways increase is just a slight increase of $1.92 on every $100,000 of assessed value, or what would equate to about 16 cents per month more per $100,000 of assessed value. This is the statute of adjacent ways, what things we can spend that on, 15,995, improving any public ways that are adjacent to our parcels, our school district parcels, things like sidewalks, sewers, utility lines, roadways, and other related improvements in or along streets and intersections. And then that final section in bold there, as I mentioned, ensures safe ingress and egress or entry and exit to our properties. These are our projected adjacent ways projects for elementary school rebuild. We have the fire lane, the ingress and egress, and then we have removal, replacement, and/or seal of asphalt at Campo Bello, Greyhawk, Palomino Intermediate, North Canyon, and Air Libre. And then a refresher of the transparency and accountability. We have a one-pager that includes this information, but just a comparison of the requirements for districts in comparison to charters and then in comparison to private schools. And we didn't used to include private schools on here, but obviously private schools can receive public money through ESAs now, and so felt it was important to ensure a comparison of the pieces that they need to do, though they are not solely or fully funded by public funds. This is, I think, clear to people. If there are any questions, I'm always happy to answer those questions. This is another portion of that area. One I always find interesting, no family members on the governing board, so Mr. Pantera could not have his wife on this governing board, but for charters, that's not the case. You can have related family members on their governing boards. And just on this final slide, slide 3 here, there are a few statutes, about 5 of them at the end of Title 15, and Title 15 is about this big now. There are about 5 of them at the end of that statute that pertain to private schools. And with that, I'm happy to answer questions about any of that.
Thank you, Dr. Berrigan.
No, not a doctor.
Mrs. Berrigan. I just think so much of everybody here.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. May I have a motion to approve item G2, consideration and approval of proposed fiscal year 2026-27 State of Arizona School District Annual Expenditure Budget as presented?
So moved.
Any board members wishing to make a comment? I have a question. Mrs. Greenberg?
Ms. Berrigan, on the adjacent ways projected projects, you noted that we are doing some work at Air Libre, which is no longer operating as an elementary school, but could you remind people what we have there, so why we are still doing work at Air Libre?
Correct, yes, at Air Libre, thank you for that question, Mrs. Greenberg. We have the name of the group is escaping me, ACES, thank you, which is a organization that we rent to, and they pay, as I believe, a little under $2 million of rent to us annually. And so we do have a responsibility as a landlord to take care of the property still.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Any other comments? Dr. Lim?
So just for clarity, I know you talked about the classroom site fund and that increasing in this upcoming year. Has it been continually increasing in our district, or is this?
Yep, so Classroom Site Fund comes from the state land trust. Any land that is sold, it goes into a fund, and there, I believe, are 13 beneficiaries, with K-12 public education being the primary beneficiary of the land trust proceeds. It has steadily increased. There was, after the recession, so I don't remember exactly, but maybe like 08, 09, maybe 10, there was a significant decrease to Classroom Site Fund. And for those of us who were in public education at that time and had to tell teachers, we're taking this money away from you because we don't have a funding source for it, we are always very cautious to remind everybody that that is a funding source that could go away or decrease, potentially, as it has in the past. But it hasn't since that time. It's been pretty steady for the last 15 years.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments, questions? Mrs. Christensen?
Thank you. On the adjacent ways projected projects, how many of these asphalt projects are going to be complete replacement, removal? Because it's kind of all lumped together, remove, replace, and/or seal asphalt.
I don't know off the top of my head, but we can get that information to the board.
Okay. And I missed this. I was reading a slide and you jumped ahead, so I don't know if one of the slides had, what was it last year? I know that you had indicated that the increase seems more significant than it is because it's
For
compared
adjacent
to that,
ways?
to that zero amount from
Are you talking about for
many years
adjacent
ago.
ways?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know the number off the top of my head. I need that slide back up, please. Thank you. So fiscal year '26, the tax was $2 and almost 24 cents per $100,000 of assessed value. Moving into fiscal year '27 will be $4 and a little more than 16 cents. So a difference of about $1.93, or 16 cents per month.
So about almost double, about double?
Can we leave the slide up? Thank you. Almost double this year.
Almost double.
Which is about 16 cents per month on $100,000 of assessed value.
And what is the main reason for the increase, even though it's a slight increase?
The elementary school rebuild, fire lane, ingress, egress, that's going to be the largest portion of that.
And are those, how much of this is required and how much of it is something that we're just taking a proactive approach? Like, are there?
For an elementary school rebuild, we would be required to have fire lane and safe ingress and egress. If these are part of, I don't remember off the top of my head these other ones, if they're safe ingress or egress portions of removal, replacement, and sealing of asphalt, but it's our requirement to upkeep those. So nobody else would do that on our behalf.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Lim?
So just for my clarity, I know on debt service and other fund expenditures, but budgets, there's this other funds. Can you just clarify what might live in that other fund space?
Yes, there's probably about 40 of them. Let me turn to
Yeah, I
that.
don't need all 40, just a
I won't
sense
tell
of
you.
what might live in this space,
Yes.
because other is very vague.
Okay, see no
There
more
it is.
questions. Then may I have a,
I didn't answer yet. I'm getting there. Give me.
oh, I thought you'd answered, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I'm moving as quickly as I can. And I will need my glasses. Okay, so we would have things in there like school plant, civic center, auxiliary operations, student activities funds. Those are large portions of it. I'm trying to think if there's another one. Career and technical education is a large portion of that. But building renewal grants would be another large portion if we were to get grant funds from school facilities division, as we usually do. Those would be some of the bigger ones.
Okay, so things that are very important to our schools functioning.
Correct. And if anybody's looking at the budget, it is on page 6 of the budget.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
How about any more questions? Am I missing anybody? Okay, then let's call for the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Any abstentions? Motion passed unanimously. Next on the agenda is items for approval G3, consideration and approval of revisions to the Family Student Handbook for 2026-27. Dr. Sweeney.
Yes, good evening, President Pantera, members of the governing board, Dr. Corson, and guests. Tonight we are presenting the second reading of the recommended revisions to the 2026-2027 Family Student Handbook for your consideration and approval. I am pleased to introduce Dr. Chris Asmussen, Secondary Director of Student Services, who will review the updates and address the feedback and clarifying questions provided by the governing board at our last meeting. Dr. Asmussen.
Push button? Oh, they got it. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sweeney. Good evening. President Pantera, members of the board, Dr. Corson, cabinet, and members of the community. Again, my name is Dr. Chris Asmussen, and I am pleased to present a second reading of the recommended revisions for the 2026-2027 Family Student Handbook. Tonight, I will review the additional changes made to the handbook based on board member feedback and share my thoughts on some concerns that were raised following the first reading. Following the first reading of the recommended revisions to the 2026-27 Family Student Handbook, board members provided feedback aimed at improving the clarity and readability of several sections. These revisions have been incorporated and based on board feedback and are now reflected in the blue line copy in all of these different sections. In addition, some board members requested revisions to the handbook to provide greater clarity and ensure that the language accurately reflects current PV schools' practices. In the extracurricular eligibility section, language was added directing parents and guardians to contact site administration and/or the activity sponsor when circumstances beyond the family's control prevent a student from meeting the requirement of attending at least half of the school day in order to participate in extracurricular activities that day. Similarly, revisions were made to the student fees section to encourage parents and guardians experiencing financial hardship to contact site administration when outstanding fees may impact a student's ability to participate in school activities. Updates were also made to the record-keeping guidelines regarding transcripts from foreign countries, and rather than stating that the schools will do the best that they can, the revised language clarifies that high school counselors will evaluate and translate foreign transcripts into equivalent courses and grades when sufficient documentation and information are available. And finally, during the first reading, it was noted that we do not search students or their vehicles without consent. And now the revised language clarifies that when site administrators have reasonable suspicion that a student's vehicle may contain weapons, drugs, or other contraband, that the school administration will request consent to search the vehicle. Following the first reading, there was a request to consider revisions to the bullying, harassment, intimidation, and hazing and threats of harm section. Last year, based on board suggestions, the language was revised to direct students to make their feelings clear to the individual being unkind to them if the student felt comfortable in doing so. If the student does not feel safe or comfortable addressing the individual targeting them, we direct the student to talk to an adult. I reviewed this language with Dr. John Bowen, a lead psychologist in our district, who supports our district's positive behavior intervention and support initiative, and confirmed that this is the correct approach. In addition, this language is in alignment with a common Tier 2 intervention of stop, walk, talk, where we teach students who are the target of unkind behaviors to tell the individual to stop when safe to do so. And if the behaviors continue, we advise the student to walk away. And if the behaviors continue further, that we would direct the student to talk to a trusted adult. However, it is noted that in this section, the section shifts from a broad discussion of students' rights to be free from bullying and harassment and intimidation. The section includes definitions of these behaviors, and then it shifts to providing individual guidance to students. The language directing the student to tell the aggressor to stop is presented without sufficient context or distinction regarding when a such response may be safe, appropriate, or effective. It would be my recommendation to allow next year's committee members to revisit and perhaps rewrite this entire section. The content will most likely remain the same, but the format and the language can be improved to better provide direction to the individual student. Additionally, following the first reading, a question was raised regarding who determines when an incident constitutes hate speech. During the discussion, I indicated that the site administrator is responsible for investigating the incident and would make that determination. I would like to provide additional context regarding this process. When a disciplinary incident occurs, it is the responsibility of the school administrator, either the principal or assistant principal, to inform the student of the alleged violation and to provide that student with an opportunity to respond. The student may deny the allegation or acknowledge the behavior while providing additional context or accept responsibility. If there is conflicting information or additional facts to consider, the administration or the administrator conducts an investigation. Following the investigation, administrators apply the preponderance of the evidence standard to determine responsibility. In other words, they assess whether it is more likely than not that the student committed the violation. This standard is consistently used when making student discipline determinations. A critical part of this process is to accurately define the behavior that occurred. In my role as Director of Student Services, a portion of my work involves supporting site administrators in both ensuring due process and correctly classifying the student conduct. For example, if a student pushes another student, administrators must determine whether the behavior constitutes physical aggression or an assault. Similarly, if one student provides a marijuana vape pen to another student, administrators must determine whether the situation involves possession, use, or distribution of drugs. These distinctions matter because they ensure that disciplinary responses are both appropriate and consistent. I have full confidence in our site administrator's ability to appropriately determine when behavior does or does not meet the definition of hate speech. The same investigative and due process procedures currently used to define other disciplinary offenses would apply in these incidences. For that reason, I continue to recommend including hate speech within our list of prohibited behaviors. This recommendation is supported by feedback from our assistant principals across the district who have requested this offense be added to the book. Following the board meeting on May 21st, within days we experienced the use of a racial slur directed at a student on one campus and received reports of anti-Semitic language and behavior occurring on another. These incidences are occurring with increasing frequency, and it is my professional recommendation that hate speech be added to our disciplinary code to provide clarity, consistency, and appropriate accountability when such instances occur. And that concludes my this concludes the recommended changes to the 2026-2027 Family Student Handbook based on board feedback. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have or take further direction from the board.
Well, thank you for that thorough descriptions and listening to the comments and questions from the board and looking at these revisions. May I have a motion to approve the revisions to the Family Student Handbook for 2026-2027 as presented?
So moved.
Any board members wishing to make a comment, questions? Dr. Lim?
Yeah, so I don't see it on here, but I know you guys have made some revisions to the chronic health section as well. I did have, I'm not sure I probably gave enough clarity. There is the very last section that requires a parent to call in for every chronic illness absence. I'm wondering if this is the place or if it's in the attendance space to give an exception for when a student is hospitalized. Because as a parent, as a child that's had extensive hospitalizations, having to call every single day when you're just barely able to get out of bed and function with a child, especially if they're in the ICU side, so they're high critical needs, is not on the top of your list. And then you're getting that lovely phone call at 10 o'clock asking where your child is, where the school knows they're at the hospital. But maybe the person calling that day is not the regular staff member that would be making those calls. So maybe some language in there for, noting that a hospitalization exempts you from having to call every day, or some sort of language that allows families that have a hospitalized child to not have the burden of calling every day, because we can't guarantee the same staff is going to be making those absentee calls every day. So I don't think I clarified that very well at the last meeting, so I don't think that's something that I actually put on your radar right now, but just looking at it, knowing the experience of those families, if you're hospital bound, the last thing you're going to do is remember to call for your chronic illness absence every day.
Board Member Lim, thank you for that. I don't disagree. I would have to loop back to our lead nurses and then also, ensure that we're following, state law, board policy, and common practices.
Yep.
But I think that we can think about those considerations, and then I can also make a recommendation to the next year's committee to focus in on that language.
Yeah, and I think that would probably be my suggestion, that you're already thinking about taking something back to the committee if we legally can do this, taking something like this back to the committee, because I'm not sure it fits under chronic illness. It might need to go under the absentee space, because not all kids that have chronic illnesses will end up hospitalized. So it may actually need to be somewhere else in the handbook, and I expect the committee to spend time figuring that out if we legally can have that exception for families in a given situation.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Ms. Wani?
Thank you so much for all the time, energy, effort, conversations, back and forth, I'm sure with all of us. So really appreciate the work that was done on this handbook. I know it's a beast. I know you inherit a lot of it. And so it's good to see it evolve, and kind of get more and more precise and current. And I know there was a beast of a probably mission to include all the new AI stuff. So just also tremendous thank you to that committee for attacking all of that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'll just say my personal experience has been with the attendance stuff. I have found personnel to be very responsive. For example, even sort of reminding me, your child also was out on Thursday. Was that related to the sickness you're calling about today on Monday? And then making those accommodations and, thank you so much. Yeah, I was sick too. I forgot to call. So I think it's great to have, a procedure kind of outlined certainly in our handbook, but for whatever it's worth, I have personally found that the humans that I end up talking to, right, they do kind of take those things into consideration, and even proactively I have found that, if I've called and I've said, my child's going to be out for this day, and I don't expect that they'll get back until this day, that has worked for my family personally. So, but I would be interested to know, what sort of options are there. But just really, aside from just a tremendous amount of gratitude for the work, and looking forward to, next year's revisions on the bullying, harassment, intimidation. But very happy with, the work you've all done. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mrs. Christensen?
Yes, thank you for the update. Back to my comments on hate speech. I am still animately opposed to including this for a number of reasons. Our students do have a First Amendment right and are protected by free speech, but public schools cannot prohibit or police what comes out of their mouth, what they say. They can absolutely, if it escalates, they can try to ensure that people are behaving appropriately, but we can't be policing everybody's speech. And the term hate speech has no specific legal definition in our Constitution, and so it does fall under First Amendment rights. And for instance, I know that we included categories such as what was it, offensive language. And so I'll give you an example, and I'll try to be very careful, and I won't mention any names, but I did have a young teenager that was attending high school. And I happen to be Hispanic, and so his mom is Hispanic, he's Hispanic, and they have nicknames for each other. Some of the boys there all of them would fall under this hate speech. They're joking. They endearingly call themselves different things, and they're friends, and this friend group is every socioeconomic, every ethnicity, and under these definitions, they would be in severe violation, and they're joking. So it goes back to that point of who gets to determine what hate speech is. As we talked about last board meeting, there were several community members that felt something was hate speech, and a couple of them did not. So if we as adults cannot decide what hate speech is, how are we going to determine if the kids are truly doing that to be, whether they're joking or whether they're trying to be hateful? I really would caution. I think we're going down a slippery slope, and almost Orwellian-like when we try to police everybody's thoughts. Just because it hurts somebody's feelings doesn't mean that it's hate speech.
To respond to that, Board Member Christensen, thank you for that perspective. I will share with you that, again, I would say that it would be the responsibility of the investigating administrator to take all things into consideration, just like they do for many other violations that happen within our book, to make a determination of how they're going to define the offense and whether or not they will find the student responsible. I will say that one of the frequent challenge that is surfacing is the use of the N-word. And we don't say the word. We actually call it the N-word. And so I would say that when students are using that language and they're directing it at somebody to meet this definition, that I do believe that our site-based administrators will be able to do that.
And I will argue that that falls under harassment and the bullying, so we don't need to add the language of hate speech per se, because if somebody is being harassed and bullied, they absolutely should not be doing, the perpetrator should not be doing that. So I don't believe we need to add hate speech per se in that to determine if somebody is being a threat or bullying or harassing someone.
Thank you.
Any other board members have a comment? Ms. Swanee?
I appreciate that there's discretion involved in that we can, hopefully just like in any disciplinary situation, and you and I had a conversation about some of these things as well with respect to bullying, right? The importance of having that discretion and not having like a one size, and even with AI, right, violations potentially, size fits all depending on what the circumstances are. I think that that's incredibly important context. I imagine you have, eyes and ears on that and are guiding our administrators to the extent possible around how to sort of investigate these things. I would also say that I think that it's really important that we have policies like this that very clearly define what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable, because these kids are going to go out into the world, and I can tell you that my employee handbook at my law firm explicitly uses this term, and it is a fireable offense essentially. So I think when we are not doing our students a service necessarily by not letting them know very clearly what the expectations and appropriate language is. I would also agree that with Mrs. Christensen that, if there is a circumstance where students are maybe, it's a learning opportunity and there could possibly be a conversation if words are being used that could be very offensive, and that on the outside of a school building could get you in a whole heap of trouble, maybe a little beat down, if you will, right, depending. So this is where we also, I think, have a responsibility to teach students to some degree that there are consequences to our behavior. And nobody is saying, unless I'm misunderstanding that, as a result of using what is defined as hate speech, it's an automatic expulsion, right? Or I assume that, again, there's discretion involved with how to treat each varying offense depending on the circumstances.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mrs. Greenberg?
I won't belabor it, but I think Ms. Wani said it very well. But I also just want to point out that this is a very specific definition in terms of hate speech. It's not looking at bullying or harassment. It is specific, and it is, I'm going to be broad here, but universally accepted. We're not making this definition up. This is a universally accepted definition of hate speech, and it really keys in, I think, words like targeting and inherent characteristics are very specific in terms of what is considered hate speech. So I appreciate that. I think it's unfortunate that we have to add it, but I appreciate that we are looking at it in an overall context.
Ms. Swanning?
Is there, do we keep track of these kinds of things, like explicitly? Like, I know, for example, we get like the disciplinary, and we kind of get a general, what the, like fighting or, vaping or what have you. Is there, I know you mentioned that there's been like an uptick in these kinds of incidences. Are we keeping tabs on this?
I've not kept quantitative data on that. I can say that, it's qualitative what I'm sharing with you. And right now that as these types of offenses arise, that they can be defined in a variety of ways, using our current code of conduct. It could be identified as bullying, harassment, and intimidation. It could be inciting because it could have led to the start of a fight. Mm-hmm. It could have been disruption to the learning environment or just plain out disorderly conduct. And so when we see these, what the assistant principals are asking for, and I will say, anecdotally, because I'm not only speaking with our site-based administrators that are working through these types of challenges, I'm also talking to victim families as well. And I would say that anecdotally, there's a need to be able to define it further so that way we can provide that quantitative information that you're looking for.
Because I mean, and it's not to, I think there's a duty, right, of education, right? They are students after all, right? So on any of these sort of, whether it's, right, bullying, harassment, intimidation, hate speech, I think that would be a good thing to maybe try to keep track of moving forward, because again, you might address a hate speech incident if it really sort of rises to that level of what we all think of, I think, when we think of hate speech, versus, right, bullying or something else. It might, it just might look different as far as that education piece. And certainly if there seems to be a culture and climate or an increase in a certain community, right, for example.
And Board Member Wani, that is part of our current practices, that when students do violate our handbook, that in addition to, the consequences that are listed within the book, we also have a practice of, putting restorative strategies in place to teach and utilize it as teachable moments in an effort to, to mitigate or not to have the behavior repeat itself. And we are seeing positive data using those strategies, that the number of students that have been suspended 2, 3, or more times is steadily going down within our district.
Mrs. Christensen?
Yes. So I don't think it's a good use of our resources to be trying to track more things. I think lumping it in like we already do, just trying to track hate speech per se doesn't seem like we would have the staff members to do that, because they're already stretched very thin. And so question for you, how have we handled this up until now? If we didn't have the word hate speech in the student handbook, doesn't it fall within those categories of escalation, violence, aggression, bullying? Why do we have to specifically put those words in there? Because it seems like we as adults should have discernment. What is joking? What is escalation? And to specifically have those two words, I think it can be subjective. For instance, there's now a new slur called clinker, and it refers to AI, and it's referring to a, like back in the Star Wars terms. People make up words all the time. So are you going to be adding different slurs every time that a new one pops up? I really think it's unnecessary to have that particular term, because it's already, as I mentioned, it falls within the bounds of everything else that we are already looking at. And how did we get here after all these decades. We've all been through school, and we didn't have that in our language, but we know how to address bad behavior, and I think that's the point. Discipline and, just follow through, but we don't have to have those two words in there, in my humble opinion.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Any abstention? Motion passes with 4 yeses and 1 nay. Next on the agenda, thank you, Dr. Asmussen. Next on the agenda is items for approval G4, acceptance of gifts and donations. At this time, I would like to thank all of our donors and call out a few of our generous donors. One of my favorite parts. Just a few. La Casa de Cristo, a total of $645.75 for Campobello Elementary Schools. That's for incentives, folders, food, field trips for students, etc. We've got one from Project Lead the Way for $10,000. That's for their engineering program expansion over at Desert Shadows Middle School. Let's see, we got another one, non-cash, but it's $2,000 from Cheryl Gilbertson at Desert Trails Elementary School. That's for the Conveyed Cruiser CX-14 medical stroller for the band room. Eagle Ridge, hey, go to the Ridge. $500 from C&W Law Group for the 6th grade Tonto Creek field trip. Oh, I need to go on that. And we have not Doritos, okay, Derito, D-E-R-I-T-O, Partners Incorporated. $1,000, that's rewards for students at Echo Mountain Intermediate School. That's just a few of them. Again, I'd like to thank all of our donors for their generosity. It really helps make everything run better here in the district. May I have a motion to accept the gifts and donations as presented?
So moved.
Any board members wishing to make a comment? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any abstention? Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is item G5, which was previously the F6, News Lines Interactive Flat Panel Displays Contract 22-02 PV. Dr. Corson, would you like to speak to that one?
Yeah, we'll have Dr. Sweeney address that.
Yes, thank you, President Pantera, members of the governing board, and Dr. Corson. In anticipation of this possibly being pulled this evening, I asked our Director of IT, Mr. Jeff Billings, to be here to elaborate a little bit on the past practice of deployment and the current plan and what lies ahead in the future on this item as well. So, Mr. Billings.
Good evening. Hi. What would you like me to, the new line in total, or is there any specific questions?
This is about the new lines, Jeff.
Yeah, the new lines in terms of the program, we're in the 3rd year, or ending up a 3rd year of a 5-year program to put new lines throughout schools, classrooms, front offices, some support offices. There's a digital signage component that Markham will get involved in, but specifically in the classroom, which is where the focus is, we're right now about 62% deployment. We'll be at 90% deployment by May of 2027. We have a deployment this summer of 300 interactive, 50 non-interactive. Probably going to be coming back to you for another 300 in the fall, and probably around 500 in the spring of 2027, at which time we'll be 90%. It's been a, what IT would call a slow roll. At no time has a teacher been forced to take the device. We did survey data at the end of year 2, and it was overwhelmingly unanimous. We now provide principals discretion in terms of if they've got a teacher who doesn't want it for instructional strategies or engagement, that's fine, because odds are very high the principal has somebody at the campus that does want it, that is eager for it. We're very respectful of elementary, middle, and high distributions and optimizing the deployment. We also have representation from all programs, initiatives, special ed, gifted, fine arts, title, and any initiatives, so make sure there's representation there as well. It's been a very good rollout, and probably the major reason for that is I'm not involved too much. Sorry, little joke. It's been a very good one, in my opinion. We don't require professional development anymore. We did the first 2 years, and then the wait list went kind of crazy on us, and we had to put discretion back to the principals to more optimally fine-tune who wants, who doesn't want that kind of thing. We still provide professional development to any school, any program, down to the teacher. It can be live, it can be asynchronous or non-synchronous, video libraries, that kind of thing. Right now, the average, I would say the average use of the board is probably right around 2.1, 2.2 hours per instructional day. That's the average use. Some are using it more, some are using it less on any given day. That's what the numbers are telling us. The biggest use cases are wired and wireless connectivity to their device, their compute device, or computer, sorry. I call it compute device, but with a lot of the functionality being everything from whatever they're sharing on their computer to wired or wireless casting when they can share a student's piece of work or explanation to the rest of the class. The teachers, as they get more advanced, they find that very, very useful for building engagement. And let's see, what a couple other things I can tell you about them. Yeah, that's kind of about it. But it's a slow roll or a soft roll. We're not forcing it on anybody, but we're creating. There's a demand. It's definitely weekly, if not daily, that the educators in our department are getting calls from teachers and principals. I want a board kind of thing. So fiscally, within my budget, I have to have a little planned rollout, and that's just the way it works. So any questions?
Well, thank you for that information. May I have a motion to approve item G5, New Lines Interactive Flat Panel Displays Contract 22-02 PV?
So moved.
Does any board member have a question or comment at this time? Mrs. Christensen.
Yes, thank you for that explanation. Good evening. How are we measuring how this $2 million price tag will help with student achievement? I do understand that teachers are using them to display things. We used to do projector, and I understand that the cost point for the displays are much higher. You said the average hours per day is about 2.1 hours per day.
Since January, this spring, yeah.
This spring? Okay. And you indicated that it seems like you're saying everybody loves these and wants, and there's high demand, because I'm hearing different stories. Not everybody wants or loves these. I had a parent reach out to me when they rolled out the first time. It was a Pinnacle parent. I think it was a DECA student, and they had it parked in the back of the classroom and did not utilize it because they wanted to be more interactive. There were certain cumbersome aspects of the devices that needed to be trained, and so this particular individual decided it was too much trouble. So I've heard that story. I've heard teachers indicate that we have approved curriculum, and some of the tools that come with, and I've never seen the displays, so excuse my ignorance, but apparently there's a lot of features, and we're paying for features that we can't use because they're not part of approved curriculum. So please, inform me if I'm incorrect, but that's feedback that I'm getting from educators that are reaching out to me personally.
Sure. Thanks for the comment and giving me that piece of information to provide context from your question. I would say after the second year, we had to shift to a discretionary model with the principal. The principal at the local level can have the conversations, if this is good for you or not good for you, and let's get it optimized and not sitting in the back of the corner. So that was the first year. Again, it's a first year adoption of any technology, so you don't want to force it. And so we pivoted. That's been very optimal. We'd much rather have the principals mad at us for more than see devices parked in the corner, right? So I think the principal made some local context decisions that is now picked up quite a bit in regard, I don't want to see a board sitting in the classroom, especially when a teacher down the hall wants one, and so that model has been optimized. After the first year, again, it was a 5-year iterative improvement, et cetera, adopting to these types of not optimal use of technology or voters' dollars. You can't do that. We have to optimize it. In terms of proof in the pudding, I'm going to rely on the teachers and the principals 99.99% of the time. And that last 0.1 is, well, I got an opinion too. Will you at least listen to it, kind of thing. So I'm going to rely on their expertise if it's good or not good, more so. And then we have a representation group called the Information Technology Committee. It's been around a long time. It's been had several different names since 2006. But the current version is ITC, heavy parent, teacher, and principal participation on that committee, representation. And they were the ones that said, yes, deploy it in this model, use these tools, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to rely on them. I'm not going to try to judge what helps engagement and academic. That's not my lane.
When we first, sorry, I thought you were done. When we first rolled these out, there was indication that when I asked about competitive bids, it wasn't the cheapest, and I think you said it might not have, this particular vendor, is it pronounced Bloom or BL?
Correct.
Wasn't the cheapest. Since then, we know that technology changes really quickly. Are these the exact same units that we purchased 5 years ago? Are they improvements? And are we getting more competitive bids? Because it's always good to save taxpayer dollars. So what is happening on the bidding process for these?
I will try to answer it this way. My business background says cost is one of the components. I'm more focused on value. Are we getting the value that we want? Sustainable? Is it sustainable? And in today's crazy world, can I manage it? Can I secure it? Can I update it? And all of those factors go in to the decision-making process. In terms of technology changing, yeah, it's that's a whole nother discussion. And I have lots of thoughts on it, but it's changing rapidly. In terms of the procurement process, I think, I've done competitive RFP bids. We just did a massive one for the E-rate federal program that you guys have heard about. There are, in my own business mind, there's a place and time for competitive bids. I personally am very pro, and I've learned that in working in the K-12 industry. I'm very pro in some of the procurement, the cooperative procurement models that K-12 participate in, and I really like how our purchasing department works it and works it hard. So that's all I can tell you. On that piece, I'm all about cost.
Does that mean there's no competitive bids? Because that was a lot of explanation, but there is or there's not?
We do for certain things, and
But for
sometimes we use things
particular
like
item.
one GPA, and we utilize the one GPA model in this, I believe,
Perhaps
yes.
Mrs. Barrican could speak to this procurement.
Just as a reminder, using cooperative contracts are a form of competitive bidding. The competitive bidding happens ahead of time, and when a cooperative contract is put together, school districts band together, they say, these are the things we believe we're going to need, and they give us the pricing for it ahead of time. So that it is still competitive bidding, it's just done in a different order.
Yeah, I will argue it's not competitive bidding when it's pre-approved vendors and pre-approved pricing. A true competitive bid is getting a request for proposal, not using a job order contract of a pre-approved vendor, because you get better pricing when there is competition. The next question I had was on the useful life of these displays. I would assume, since we've been using them for a few years, some of them have had to be replaced. What is the useful life, and what are we doing in terms of breakage and replacement of existing units?
Well, we have warranties that exist throughout the life of the device, okay? Support model that exists throughout the life of the device. There's a phenomenon, Drew and I were talking about that. Oh, Drew's not here, sorry, he was there. In the technology space, what's happening more and more and more is subscription-based. Everything's kind of like the Netflix world anymore, right? So it's subscription-based. So the whole what they call CapEx and OpEx is changing. And yes, we have to do long-term planning in terms of these specific devices. If we want to continue it, we can continue the licensing, but you can continue the licensing subscription after the 7 years. They're bought with a 7-year license, I believe. Yeah, I think so. It might be 5. I get them messed up sometimes. Yeah, it's 7. We can continue with that licensing, but what you're going to find and you see it with your darn phones, after a certain amount of years, you got to get a new phone. And so we're going to have to, that's a whole new mindset that we're having to shift. Drew and I are having to shift in that in a pretty big way about how do you manage that. And we have to work with Connor or finance department, excuse me, to anticipate that. So I hope that answers your question. It's difficult. It's added another layer of complexity.
It is difficult. I guess the bottom line is, my last question will be, what evidence can you provide us that spending $2 million on these additional screens, interactive displays, can produce educational benefits that, in order to increase academic achievement? Because that's really the bottom line here. Is it just a glorified projector with a big price tag? Or I'm having a hard time seeing the justification for this big dollar amount. And I do get that it's bond money. And last time you indicated, well, voters approved it. Voters did approve bond money for technological items, but they did not approve for us to waste taxpayer dollars. That's why I'm going down this lining of question, and it's, no offense to you, I think you've done a great job, but I just want to ensure that these dollars are spent well.
And I appreciate that, and thank you. And I don't believe I'm wasting taxpayers' dollars, or I could not work here. I could not look at myself in the mirror. Literally, that's my ethos. I couldn't do it. Now, in terms of, are we optimizing the dollars for education purposes? Again, I go back to who's good at this, and that's principals, that's teachers. If I'm aligned with what they think is good, then I stand behind it. My role is to try to optimize it, project it, fine-tune it, and there's more to come with New Lines. Just letting you know. I won't go down that path right now, but you're going to see more and more and more of that value coming down the line.
Okay, well, thank you for answering all my
Thank you.
questions, but I will argue that 2 hours a day isn't going to bring up our scores, but I
Yeah.
appreciate you answering all my questions.
It's a
And
tough question with
thank you.
technology.
Yeah, it is tough.
Any other comments, questions? Dr. Lim?
So I remember in the last approval that we're involved in, or at least that I was involved in, I think this has started before my point on the board. One of the things that was happening was we had classrooms that didn't have devices, and this was really a rollout to try and replace some of the devices that were already dead, and we were already using backup equipment just to get those classrooms connected. How much now are we replacing devices that are currently working, and what then happens to those working devices that are the old technology after they've been removed from the classroom?
Who has some of the oldest boards in the district? It was the one that led us to, and that's Horizon High School in Shelley. They had the largest deployment before we really got into it. So we learned from them to a large degree. What that means is they have some of the oldest. And so what do you do when technology is too old? We have disposal contracts that were rare earth material or is melted down, and so there's money in the waste management business. So we get to participate in some of that. But when a computer when a compute device can no longer be managed, secured, when it's lost its core operating system capability, you can't manage it. So what do we do with it? It's disposed in a very big way. That's what happens to our phones. And I'm not saying I'm proud of that as a strong environmentalist, but we've had some creative programs that we've done with high school programs along that line. I'd love to get into, and I know my new boss is going to ask me to get into that. So there are things that we can do, and the students actually have a lot of creative ideas.
I think my question comes, and I'm hoping we can think a little bit more long-term. I'm not talking about these current Bloom devices, but the ones that are being phased out before. Currently in my field, we microscopes turn over very quickly, and we need new technology, whether it's a new image, a new laser, new things. But those old devices have life. They still can go on to do other things. So I guess I'm curious as to, do we have a model besides just selling them off for parts and parting them down? Is there a pathway for selling off these products to other spaces as we come in and replace them, knowing, as someone who would prefer a very healthy environment, that some of these might still have a shelf life, maybe not the current devices we're buying, but the ones that we're replacing with that are actually still functioning and functioning pretty well?
Yes.
While we don't want to secure them, maybe someone else wants to figure it out.
We actually have, there are procurement, or there's asset end-of-life state laws we have to follow. So with that in place, there are some, the problem when you go digital, it's different than a physical. If it goes digital, well, I don't care whether it's an optic or drone or whatever it is. Once you go digital, you have to secure it and manage it. So there's not a good way to deploy that in a learning institution or in a business. I mean, it's just real hard once you go digital. So there are some creative things we've done with students. The challenge is doing it at scale. You know, you can do it for 100 as a proof of concept, but now what do we do when it's 10,000? You know, that scale. And that's not really our bread and butter in PV, other than if we can give authentic experiences to kids, which I think we can, to help them problem solve these kinds of things. It's amazing. They're very creative. So I don't know how to answer that question. You know, how do I solve the electronic global glut of stuff out there? How do I solve that?
Yeah, I guess I'm not expecting you to solve that because that's definitely outside of our wheelhouse in public education. But I imagine there's someone out there that is helping turn over and find new homes for these devices. And as we replace ones that are functioning, I would love to see us have a model for putting them out of the district and potentially recouping even some sort of funds for them that can then go back into the classroom in some capacity. So I think that's just my encouragement of us trying to figure out what to do with them besides them just ending up potentially in a warehouse collecting dust.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I get it.
Any other comments, concerns, questions? Mrs. Greenberg?
Since the concern expressed seems to be how these devices are used, can either you, Professor Billings, or perhaps Mrs. Strophus, because she's still here, address how these devices are used?
She can run circles around me as she'd like to.
And you don't have to, because, you know, it's up to you, but I think it would be great now that we're, you know, a couple years in, maybe getting a little refresher on
We took her lead, so.
how they are being used.
Well, first, kind of at the top of my mind is Dr. Lim's question. So the ones we originally got, they had, and Mr. Billings, correct me if I say the wrong word, they had software built into it that you had to update. And so those became end of life quicker because this company's software updates were slower than the software that we are using, whether it was on our Macs or on our Windows devices. Those got updated a lot faster by Microsoft and Apple, and the boards just couldn't keep up. The amazing thing about the new lines is they're all web-based, so there's no software in there. You just can plug into your device, or you can open up tabs. So our teachers use them for all kinds of things. They are very interactive, so students can go up there and like a teacher could put up a paper and say, let's correct this paper, and kids can go up and use their finger and let's underline and draw things. I've seen my daughter's first grade teacher use it where the kiddos are going up and they're circling the words that are spelled wrong. The kids can connect with their devices to do review type games, so they can log in and then they're putting interactive answers. So if a government teacher asks a question, they can put their opinions and they pop up and everyone can see what their opinions are. So there's thousands of ways I could talk about how the teachers use it, but ours were so high in demand that before this program even rolled out, we were using our school funds to purchase these for the teachers because they wanted them so bad. And then once I found out we were going to do this, I was like, pump the brakes. Let's save our money to be able to spend on other things because we knew these were going to roll out. So we haven't had to, a lot of them have been able to go to the other schools because we have so many. And kind of to answer Dr. Lim's question, to my knowledge, we have not had to replace any of our new lines, even the ones that we bought, which have been 6-7 years ago now. The ones that we did dispose of were like the ones with the software that were like completely dead, not operable. And I've even had ones where we've moved them to a place where we could hang it on the wall and just display information for parents. So like when parents come, it's running, here's the open house, here's like in a lobby. But they are truly amazing. So I can't speak for all the teachers, but I have one teacher on my whole campus that was like, yeah, it's not really my jam. And I was like, that's cool. So he doesn't have one, but there's not anyone else that does not want one. Did that help?
Yes, that helped me. Thank you.
Mrs. Christensen?
Yes, you're saying that students can connect to them. Is that connect wirelessly and display things?
Yes.
How we just talked about hate speech just a little while ago and harassments and threat. How are we controlling what kids are displaying up there? Because I did hear an incident, and it was at Horizon High School, that one of the educators had put kind of a survey thing, and then he had to shut it down because of the comments that were being done by the students. So, I mean, I'm just curious, what fail-safes are there
The
that,
ones that I've seen have a code, so the teacher gives
Okay.
the code and then it pops up on their screen first, so you have to approve. It's like when they're playing a game, they have to come up with like a nickname for themselves. So if they put some name that's not appropriate, the teacher can exit out and they have to choose a different one. I'm not sure, I'm not aware of the incident that you're referring to, but there's codes and it comes up on the teacher's screen first and you have to like approve it before it goes
yeah, I
onto
think
the
it
main.
was a survey type, and then the students were able to type just free things. And
Yeah.
so it had to be kind of shut down, is my understanding, at least in this particular incident. So, so you're saying that you get good use rates at Horizon
Yes.
High School. There's a high, high usage. That's
Yep.
really good. Some of the other things that I was questioning that that Mr. Billings wouldn't understand was in terms of usage. One of the things that I heard from a educator, and granted it wasn't one of our younger teachers, so what type of software is on there that can't be used? So I was really confused about that because I don't understand how they're rolled out, and she indicated that it was kind of a waste of money. Well, that's a question for you, because I asked him already. He didn't know the answer. So,
Do you mean like
so
the new curriculum stuff? Wasn't?
the comment to me was that we have approved curriculum, and so they felt that the screens and displays were a bit of a waste because there were tools and things on there that could not be used because it's not part of approved curriculum. So I didn't understand it. Maybe I was hoping you could shed some light on that. What type of tools would be on these that are part of approved curriculum?
The only thing I can think of is there was something with Google, and Google was rolling out an update to where they were trying to open their drive on, I do remember something about this, but that was like, that was going to be fixed with the curriculum person. Not like the company that we bought the curriculum from. There was like some kind of snag there. So it wasn't necessarily a software issue, more like a bug that they needed to fix in an update. Because I think I did hear something like that. It had something to do with Google Drive, and they wanted to like upload their existing stuff, and there was, but yeah, I think they were working on fixing that.
Ms. Christensen, let me give a try with a question to Mr. Billings. Mr. Billings, in the new line boards, is there anything from the IT perspective that we block in terms of tools or accessibility on the actual new line board that we block from use?
Blocks kind of, not sure the right word, but there, we manage the software. Teachers do not have, just like they don't have the authority from a security standpoint to install, that's true of all employees. You can't go around installing whatever you want to install, right? And boards are a computer. They just got a really big display. They have an operating system, their compute devices, this kind of thing. So no, they can't install anything they want. There are managed software, but do they have access to the curriculum? Absolutely, because most of our curriculum, last I looked, I think it came out about 99+% is web-based tool. The most predominant use is whatever they're doing on their computer, they can share it on the board. Be that a PDF view, be that a Zern exercise that's interactive, whatever they're doing that they can do on the computer, the kids can do on the computer, you can do it on the board. So I hope that answers your question. Everything's web-based.
Dr. Lim?
I could probably expand on that, and hopefully we'll get to the right place, because I've purchased many of these for our team, not this specific device, a different form of a board. So when we purchase these boards, they come with a whole bunch of software that's specific for that company. But at Mayo, we use Microsoft. So most of the things I have to download and use are Microsoft. But I can't delete any of the other existing programs that are on these boards, but they are technically not usable to me because they're either out of the parameters, I'm not allowed to use them, or they're just a specific thing that company's designed that is not very helpful to me. So then I have to download the things that are useful to me. So I think about it, and our team also, or the team that approved it, called it a giant iPad, that there are a lot of things on there that you may not use on your phone or your iPad, but they're just naturally on your device and you can't make them go away. And I have had frustration with, like, I can't make these disappear. They always show up at the top of the screen, and that's just how that device is built. So I'm guessing that's probably the teacher experiencing something like that, things that are already on the board and we can't remove them, or are we able to remove things from the board? Do we have that power to say, well, we don't use these tools, so the teachers don't see these tools at all. We remove them from the boards.
Anything on the board can be removed. We manage it. That's done through a vetting process. If there's something that needs to be installed that we don't have it, there's a vetting process driven primarily through three assistant superintendents, the curriculum instruction assessment, secondary, and elementary. So that's the vetting process. So we can install things. We don't install a lot because the teachers are using it. If they've got it on their computer, their curriculum, it's web-based, so away they go, right? The three biggest usages are the interactive whiteboard, so they can go up there and jot notes, that kind of thing. The screencasting, wireless screencasting, so the teacher can share student work, and hooking up to the hard drive. And the fourth one is, actually, they do use dock cameras quite a bit. And those are very functional now, all powered USB-C, less cables, that kind of thing. So it's really quite the evolution that's going on.
And for clarity, this has probably changed since the initial rollout, kind of how we take and add things to that. It's probably improved over time, am I correct?
Yes, ma'am. There's a vetting process, and we listen to the principals, and we listen to the teachers, and we listen to ITC. What do they want most? And then what can we afford within the budget, and what can we secure and manage so all the boards don't all of a sudden crash because we didn't manage right.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Mrs. Wani?
So for this current number of 300, is there already a predetermined distribution locations? Like, have you already identified where they're going?
Yes, ma'am. We're honoring the model we've always had, which seems to work. We want, based on enrollment numbers, elementary, middle, and high, and then paying respect and making sure we have representation from all the programs, initiatives, the gifted title, no educator
left behind.
But one.
So I just will share a personal experience. The last time this came before us, I don't recall when it was, but it could not have been that long ago because I've only been on the board not even 2 years, although sometimes it feels like longer than that. I think if anybody can recall when do you recall when this came in front of us last time? It was not at this time in the year. It must have been earlier in the year. Anyway, I think a lot of us, I know I received an invitation from teachers to come and see them and interact with them. And I visited a self-contained autism class, and I was blown away by how they utilize these screens. I was there for over an hour, and from the start, there were students that, were not really engaged in the lesson. They, were kind of doing their own thing, and they were given the space to do that. And little by little, by, halfway through the period, these students were, all of them, even the ones that at the start of it, I was like, this kiddo is not going to interact at all, right? They all interacted, they all engaged, they all had fun, they were up there moving things around, playing games. The functionality, and it was miraculous to me because I'm like, I've never seen anything that it was way cooler than an iPad, right? Because it was watching the teacher pull up their Google Classroom and their custom lessons, right? Whether it's we're making food, right? Go up and move the food. What food do you like, right? And just getting these kiddos to really interact, engage with each other, laughing, and it was honestly truly incredible. And I will also supplement that with, I think not PV, but society, right? We overuse technology. I think a lot of us are exhausted by it. I personally would love to, I love you, Jeff, but I would love to see less technology in our classrooms, right? I would like to see more books. I would like to see more writing and print and all the things at the same time. Like, these are also, I think, incredible tools, and they have the potential to really be used in such a phenomenal way to reach students that I don't think we necessarily could otherwise. So I think there's a place for them. They do have a very high price tag. I don't love that either, but the reality is I think we do have to find some sort of balance. I'm encouraged by the fact that they are now, as you said, more subscription-based. I do think that that seems like a better for longevity, right, purposes, and for you to sort of have more of an a la carte experience of what it is that we're utilizing to ensure we're keeping up with what's current and relevant. And then the 7-year display warranty seems like, I mean, probably you wouldn't want something longer than that, because after the 7 years, it does kind of seem like, it's probably time maybe to reevaluate. Just like in 7 years, we're going to look at a new curriculum. It's kind of like the same, a bigger environmental impact, right, than, necessarily a book or something like that for like a science curriculum. But I kind of think of it that way. It's like a 7-year investment in a tool that we're utilizing to reach and engage students. So I would just say, like, if you haven't gone to a classroom, to engage with some of these devices, like, do it, because I had my doubts, like, seriously, until that, and then I was like a believer. I was like, this is actually incredible.
One point that I would add to that is I think the teachers that have had them for a bit, and so now they're very immersed in it, they are able to not have their students on their own screens so much. Kids don't need to be on their screen, because now the teacher can show them, this is the web page that we're going to, and I'm gonna go to it. So they don't have to worry so much about, is the kid even on the right, on their own device. So many of our teachers are starting to go back to some paper-based stuff, because they're able to use their new line to show the kids what they want to, and they don't have to worry so much. Like, if I'm up at the board working out a problem, I don't have to worry about what all the kids, are they actually on this particular screen? So they're just like, or close them, because now I can show them what I need to, and I don't need to direct them to this page. So that's been beneficial too, about having less screen time for the kids, which I think we all think we need to find the balance there too.
And I will like to just add the point that I started with. I think the teachers are balancing it right. At 2.1 hours per instructional day, that's kind of hitting a nice sweet spot in my world. That's like 1/3 of the day. I think they're using it appropriately. It's just from that quantitative average. Granted, it's an average, but we're in the end of a 3rd year, and about 2.1 hours a day. That's not bad. That's the way I look at it.
Any other board members like to make a comment? Mrs. Christensen?
Yes, after hearing all the comments, and I am now even more concerned about our younger learners using this, because I think for the high school, the interaction is great. I like what I'm hearing about closing your screens, but these items are addictive. iPads are addictive. A ginormous iPad display is going to be very harmful for our youngest learners, and I would like to see them coloring more on color books and playing, but it does concern me that we are still pushing the technology to our youngest learners. I've said this in several board meetings. Sweden, many countries that were very high tech, they've done a complete 180 with these, especially for our youngest learners, because they're so addictive, and as you know, their brains are not fully developed until they're 25, and so all this stimulation is really harmful for our youngest learners. So it sounds like it's a good move for our high schools and even our middle schools, but I would really caution us pushing this too much in the elementary school. And with that, I will close my comments on this topic.
Any more comments from any member of the board? I would just like to say I've talked to many colleagues, many teachers and staff in the district, and they all love these boards. They use them properly. And if I was teaching still, I'd be jonesing for one of these in my classroom. I mean, I remember all the different devices I would have to have in my classroom: the overhead projector, the computer projector, the slide screens, you know, all the things we used to have, and this does it all. It's one device replaces all those other devices. I would totally be wanting one of these so badly. And like I said, I've talked to a lot of teachers, and they all swear by them. All right, so let's call for the motion then. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All the opposed say nay.
I would like to explain my no vote. You need to give me permission, President Pantera.
No.
So I'm going to explain my no vote. I think these are wonderful devices in small quantities. I think the price tag is too high. I think for our youngest learners that we need to limit digital devices. And so that is why I'm voting nay on this item. Thank you.
Any abstentions? Motion passes 4 ayes to 1 nay.
Thank you. Good evening.
I've received no yellow cards, so there's no call to the public today. So this takes us to items for discussion. Next on the agenda is discussion I-1, consideration of proposed new courses and revisions for the 2027-2028 high school course catalog. Dr. Sweeney.
Yes, President Pantera, members of the governing board, Dr. Corson, and guests, tonight we are presenting the first reading of the proposed 27-28 course approvals. I am pleased to introduce Jackie Clayton, who is our lead district counselor, and she is going to present an overview of the process that led to the recommendations before you and answer any questions you have about either the courses or the process. Of note, you have been provided a copy of the entire new course catalog, as well as a copy of the 29-slide deck that has a ton of specific information on it. We are not going to go through the entire slide deck here tonight, but will be up and accessible to Jackie, and if you have any specific questions, she will refer to the appropriate slide for that to discuss. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jackie.
Backwards. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sweeney. Good evening, President Pantera, governing board members, Superintendent Dr. Corson, cabinet, and guests. My name is Jackie Clayton, and I am the district lead school counselor. Tonight, I'll be presenting the first reading of the proposed high school course additions, revisions, and pathway updates for the 2027-2028 school year. These recommendations reflect collaborative work across school counseling, curriculum, CTE, fine arts, special education, school leadership, and district departments to strengthen student opportunities and improve clarity for students and families. Also joining us this evening is Allie Ray, our Director of Fine Arts. She is here to help any content-specific questions connected to the fine art department. Tonight's recommendations continue our district focus on improving pathway visibility, strengthening transcript transparency, expanding rigorous and relevant opportunities, and helping students better connect their coursework to post-secondary goals and career readiness. Before reviewing the individual course recommendations, I want to briefly highlight an important system improvement connected to this process. Beginning this year, the district shifted the course approval timeline earlier in the school year to better align with registration, staffing, and course planning processes. Previously, many course approvals occurred during the same semester students were actively selecting courses. That created operational pressure for school counseling teams, IT, school leaders, and master scheduling. By moving the process earlier, courses can be approved and built before registration opens. SchoolLink's course planner can be updated in advance, and students and families can make decisions using finalized course information. This adjustment also improves transcript accuracy, pathway sequencing, staffing projections, scheduling efficiency, and cross-department coordination. Ultimately, this is a system alignment improvement designed to better support our students, families, and schools. Tonight's presentation focuses on proposed course revisions and new course recommendations for the 27-28 school year. These recommendations are designed to strengthen pathway alignment, improve transcript transparency, increase access to rigorous and relevant coursework, expand post-secondary opportunities, and create clearer sequencing for students and families.
The presentation includes revisions to existing courses, updates to course descriptions, pathway and sequence refinements, and new course recommendations connected to academies, college readiness, workforce preparation, fine arts, and student support systems. Many of these updates are connected to our larger district work around creating clearer and more intentional student pathways rather than isolated course offerings. All recommendations presented tonight were submitted through a formal proposal process that included a rationale and purpose, pathway alignment, student impact, staffing considerations, and long-term sustainability. Recommendations then moved through a collaborative review process involving school counselors, curriculum leaders, assistant principals, district administrators, and department representatives. Throughout the process, we focused on several key questions. How does this support student opportunity? Does it improve pathway coherence and sequencing? Does it align with college and career and workforce readiness? Does it improve transcript transparency and clarity? And is the course operationally sustainable? This process intentionally emphasizes pathway development and student progression rather than isolated course additions. At this time, we will pause to answer any questions that you might have regarding the recommendations that were provided to the governing board prior to this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Any board members wishing to make a comment? Ms. Swanee?
Thank you. I just actually have a question about the new course recommendations for like the transitional courses, like the social living and essentials. I think it's wonderful. I think it's great that these new courses are being recommended. My question was, so we haven't had these kinds of courses in place. What sort of like transitional courses have we had?
I'll do my best to answer the question. Unfortunately, our instructional specialist was not able to be here this evening. We have had the social living and some transition elective classes available. We just haven't had the sequencing. So it's been the same class in the student schedule over and over. And so we need to start adding sequence levels so that we are more ADE compliant with our IEPs.
Yeah, I think it's great. And is it gonna are they gonna be offered at all, I'm assuming at all high schools? They'll be offered at all high schools?
Yes, any of the programs that offer these programs will have these options. So
Okay.
a student will have a complete schedule of 8 different classes.
For clarification, these are specific for some special education
No, I know. Yeah,
programs.
I understand.
Okay.
Yeah,
They're not at all high schools, the programs.
So it won't be, so they're not, okay. So
They'll
where
be
they're
offered
needed?
where the programs are
Where the programs
available.
are.
Okay, and could you just remind us what high schools that would be?
Currently, it's Shadow Mountain High School.
Paradise Valley. Horizon, I think, does have one program.
Okay.
Yes. Very good.
Okay, and so do we have a plan, like how will, because I think this is great, and how will this be communicated to parents so that they are, will there be like an effort to kind of let them know like this is going, this sequence is a new option?
So typically right now, a student gets their schedule, the parents see that schedule in IC. Now it will just be, they will see the actual class for every single hour instead of the same name every single hour. So it's going to be more transparent on what their student is actually earning during that hour of
Okay.
education.
I also just think there's an opportunity, because I think this is a great improvement, just to even intentionally communicate that out to, to families with students that have IEPs where these courses are appropriate, so that they can really appreciate like that this is so much more information, and they have a really good understanding. May as well let everybody know that it's something that's, so it doesn't get lost, because I do think it's great. And maybe there's an opportunity that, I don't know if you have already, but just even partnering with, just some of our local, like United Parent Council and like their special education committee, and, just really getting the word out about like the intention that's going on here for the students.
Absolutely. And Ms. Norton, who actually was working on this with the SPED committee, they've been working on this for the last year and trying to make these updates and transition. So I do believe they will be communicating that out to families.
Thank you. And thanks for your work on this. There's a lot, so thank you.
Other comments, questions? Dr. Lim?
So I know we've seen course recommendations before. Can you clarify, are these different than, for example, we saw a bunch in the arts last time about moving some of these to honors for the obvious reasons of the 4.0 versus the 5.0. Are these additional recommendations on top of that, or are these, can we just get a little clarity on that?
Yes, so these are additional courses. What we found when the counselors started scheduling things is with our choir and dance classes, to create a true progression, we needed to look at the courses as like a standalone course versus like these are a progression, because there's kids that are going to be in like a choir 1-2, and then they're going to stay in that class because that's their skill level, because these are skill level classes. Or like a dance 7-8, we might have a freshman in there, but we don't want the freshman having dance 7-8 and then as a sophomore dance 7-8 as a junior. So we wanted to show the progression, so we're adding in these numbers so that they can show progression within the classes.
Okay, great. And then, so I know we've already did add the honors classes in these spaces. Shadow Mountain's an example of where we've seen that. Have we seen an uptick in kids that have been able to do this because of the honors label on it?
So with Shadow Mountain, yes. And then our new honors that we approved this year are implementing for next year. Okay. So kids will be in the first 2 weeks of their normal class, they will be deciding if they're going to pursue the art seal, and they'll do a commitment letter, and then they will be moved into the honors sections if they're in a 5-6 or 7-8 level.
Great, thank you for that clarity.
Any other comments, questions? All right, then, we'll look forward to hearing from you the second wave of this. Thank you very much. Great work. Next on the agenda is items for discussions. I2, overview of K-12 targeted English language development curriculum adoption. I'll turn this over to Dr. Corson.
Thank you, President Pantera, members of the Governing Board, Cabinet, and guests. Tonight, we bring you a preview of the work currently being undertaken by a curriculum review committee regarding potential instructional resources for our English language learners. Ensuring that all students are developing strong reading, writing, and language skills remains one of our highest priorities. Providing high-quality instructional resources that support the unique needs of our English language learners is a critical part of that work. This presentation is intended to provide an early look at the committee's efforts and, importantly, an opportunity for the Governing Board to share perspectives and priorities for the committee to consider as it continues its review process. The committee will use this feedback as it refines its work and develops recommendations that will be brought forward during this next school year. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Berrigan, who has been serving double duty this spring in supporting our federal programs department while also sponsoring and guiding this important work.
Thank you, Dr. Corson, President Pantera, and Governing Board. I will add that I have been woefully inadequate in supporting Mystique and in our wonderful Jean's absence. And luckily for us, we have an incredibly competent person who is the director in this position. And we have every acceptance of what she is sharing tonight, that she has done her due diligence. I have attended the initial meeting that they had regarding this curriculum adoption, and was very impressed with the work that she and her team have put together on this. So I will have Ms. Teague present now.
Well, thank you, Ms. Berrigan, for that introduction. Good evening, President Pantera, Governing Board, Dr. Corson, Cabinet, and guests. As you heard, my name is Katrina Deek, and I am the Director of Federal Programs, and I'm the co-facilitator of this committee. The purpose of this presentation is to provide the Governing Board with an overview of the K-12 targeted ELD curriculum adoption process for pre-emergent, emergent, and basic learners, as well as an update of the committee's work to date. Tonight, I will begin by recognizing our committee members and outlining the vital purpose of their work. From there, I will walk you through a timeline and the process so far. I will also share our draft evaluation criteria we would like to utilize to ensure we select the most effective resources tailored for our Paradise Valley community. Throughout this journey, we will prioritize gathering various perspectives from teachers, principals, students, parents, and community members. We look forward to sharing the valuable insights gained from these stakeholders. I will conclude by seeking Governing Board feedback and input as the committee continues its work. done, sorry. I would like to recognize the dedicated individuals serving on this committee. This group of individuals represents a variety of stakeholder groups, including parents, administrators, teachers, classified staff. The committee also includes representation from both Title I and non-Title I schools. Each member has brought a valuable experience and perspective to the process, allowing the committee to engage in thoughtful discussions and meaningful review throughout the work completed thus far. The committee began its work on April 16th and has had 3 meetings to date. An additional 7 meetings are planned for the 26-27 school year as this work continues for a possible curriculum adoption in the 27-28 school year. I want to take a special moment to thank our facilitators of this work, Christy Kroner, Jennifer Stoltz, and Nancy Walker. Again, I want to extend my gratitude to the committee members for their time, energy, and dedication they've contributed throughout this process, as well as their continued commitment to supporting this work moving forward. The purpose of this committee is to research and review K-12 targeted ELD curricula designed especially to support our pre-emergent, emergent, and basic learners, and to eventually make a recommendation regarding instructional materials that best meets the needs of our PV students and teachers. As part of the early stages of the process, the committee is examining a variety of instructional resources, including traditional publisher materials, online programs, and open source curriculum options. Committee members are reviewing resources that incorporate evidence-based instructional practices that align with the Arizona English Language Development Standards, instructional models to support language acquisition and student achievement. This process provides an opportunity for the district to explore updated instructional resources with a long-term goal of strengthening student access, engagement, and academic success for multilingual learners. Arizona Language Development Approach, or the LDA, serves as the foundation for how schools across the state support multilingual learners. One of the key principles of the framework is that supporting English learners is the responsibility of all educators, not just one program or one teacher. The framework focuses on 4 connected areas: maintaining high expectations for students, integrating language development throughout the instructional day, providing targeted language instruction, and using ongoing assessment and feedback to guide student support. This work aligns closely with PV Schools' commitment for providing consistent access to instructional resources and supports across schools. As the committee began reviewing our current systems and resources, the LDA helped guide conversations around what effective supports should look like for students who are at the beginning stages of English language development. It also reinforced the importance of having aligned instructional resources and supports across schools so multilingual learners can more consistently access instruction and build language skills throughout the district. Before discussing the curriculum review process further, it's important to understand the students this work is intended to support. This slide highlights Arizona's English language proficiency levels. While multilingual learners are represented across all proficiency levels, the curriculum review is specifically focused for students who are identified as pre-emergent, emergent, and basic. Students at the pre-emergent and emergent levels are at the earliest stages of English language development. They often have limited ability to communicate in English and require significant support to access academic content and participate in classroom learning. Students at the basic level have begun developing English language skills and can communicate using simple words and phrases, but they continue to need targeted language instruction and scaffolds to engage successfully with grade level expectations. Because these students are still building foundational listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills in English, they often benefit from instructional resources specifically designed to meet their language development needs. This understanding helps guide the committee's decision to focus its review on resources designed specifically for the pre-emergent, emergent, and basic learners. There are several important reasons why PV Schools is moving forward with the review and the exploration of a K-12 targeted ELD curriculum designed specifically for this subgroup of learners. First, currently the district does not have a curriculum adoption specifically designed for this subgroup of multilingual learners. As a result, schools often rely on supplemental resources to meet students' needs. These beginning English learners are at the earliest stage of their language development and may experience challenges accessing grade-level instructional materials without targeted language support. They often require intentional instruction that develops their listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills while helping them engage with the core academic content. As the committee reviewed our current practices across the district, it identified a need for greater consistency in instructional resources across the schools and grade levels. A common set of resources can help provide a more aligned experience for students and teachers while supporting district-wide instructional coherence. This adoption process also provides an opportunity to strengthen language acquisition while supporting access to the grade-level learning. High-quality, targeted ELD resources are intentionally designed to build language proficiency, student confidence, and academic engagement. Ultimately, the goal is to ensure that our multilingual learners receive instruction aligned to their language proficiency levels and instructional needs. By exploring resources specifically designed for this subgroup of students, the district is taking an important step towards providing consistent, targeted support that helps students continue to grow both linguistically and academically. To better understand the students served through this work, this following demographic data provides a 2-year overview of our multilingual learner population. In 2025, PV schools served 2,808 English learners, with 1,568 students identified as pre-emergent, emergent, or basic. This represents 56% of our English learner population. In 2026, the total number of English learners decreased from 2,000 to 2,256 students. Of those, 1,057 students were identified as pre-emergent, emergent, or basic, representing 47% of our English learner population. While the overall number of students has decreased, nearly half of our multilingual learners continue to require targeted language development support at the earliest proficiency levels. This data reinforces the need for a curriculum adoption focused specifically on our pre-emergent, emergent, and basic students so we can provide consistent, aligned, and intentional language instruction across schools. Throughout the process, the committee is committed to gathering input from a broad range of stakeholders as it reviews its K-12 targeted ELD curriculum resources. As outlined in this timeline, the process began in February 2026 with a call to committee. The committee included representation from multiple stakeholder groups across the district and reflects a variety of schools, grade levels, and instructional perspectives. Committee meetings began in April of 2026 and will continue through February 2027. All meetings follow open meeting procedures with agendas posted at least 24 hours in advance. Minutes are posted within 3 days following each meeting, and meetings are open to the public. Stakeholder engagement is a critical component of the adoption process, and from September to December of 2026, curriculum resources and sample materials will be available for public review, both online and in the district office lobby, during a 60-day review window. Flyers with QR codes linking directly to digital resources and feedback forms will be distributed across school campuses to encourage participation. Additional opportunities for engagement will include informational flyers, open house events, virtual material reviews, and a collaboration through our English Language Development PLC structures. These efforts are designed to increase awareness of the adoption process while providing multiple avenues for stakeholders to share feedback. This process will conclude with a first read of the committee's recommendation to the governing board in February 2027, followed by a second read in March of 2027. This timeline allows for a comprehensive review process while supporting thoughtful planning for implementation and professional development. With a strong understanding of the Arizona language development approach, district instructional priorities, and the needs of multilingual learners, the committee developed a draft evaluation criteria to guide the curriculum review process. The committee is carefully considering several important components when reviewing sources, including alignment to the Arizona English Language Proficiency Standards, which supports the receptive, productive, and interactive communication, foundational reading and language skills, assessments, usability, and available supports for teachers, students, and families. An additional priority for the committee is ensuring that our instructional resources support high-quality, teacher-led instruction and meaningful student interaction, rather than excessive computer-based learning. Arizona's SEI model implementation guide allows independent software to supplement instruction for up to 40% of our targeted ELD instructional block. For example, for a 60-minute block, this would equate to no more than 24 minutes of software-supported instruction. Because of the guidance, the committee is placing a strong emphasis on resources that promote direct instruction, student discourse, collaboration, active engagement with teachers and peers. The goal is to ensure that our multilingual learners are developing language skills through authentic interactions and meaningful instructional experiences, not primarily through screen time. These evaluation criteria are intended to help select resources, providing meaningful language development support while also promoting access to grade-level academic content. A link to the full rubric has been provided for the governing board who would like to review the draft evaluation criteria in greater detail. And at this point, I welcome any questions or feedback the governing board would like the committee to consider as we continue the review process.
Thank you for that very, very thorough presentation. Who would like to comment or question first? Anyone? Dr. Lim?
So I know you have highlighted that we don't currently have a curriculum in this space, and I imagine when people think of this curriculum, they're probably thinking, oh, well, this is for most people who are speaking English as Spanish as being they're bilingual or multilingual in this case. But I imagine we do have a small subset of students that do not speak Spanish, they speak another language. Would a curriculum adoption in this case be able to account for multiple different languages that our student might speak as a multilingual student?
That would be the case, yes. Any student who is receiving ELD services on whatever their home language is would receive this curriculum.
Okay, great. And so I think my question, to expand on that a little further, is it going to create potentially better access for those students that speak a very minority second language that maybe don't get as much face-to-face interaction but get a lot more digital interaction because it's very unlikely that they have someone in their classroom that actually speaks their language in any capacity. So if they can't communicate in English and they're only able to engage in their native language, they may get blocked out of the classroom in some capacity. Could this help alleviate some of that?
Yeah, so currently students that might fit that category are already in a classroom where all of the students are in the same boat as them. They might speak different languages, right? But there is the universal language of using the restroom, right? Like we have our school words, and so our teachers are very cognizant of making sure that students feel comfortable first in the classroom and understand school language. So they're successful, and I think it's a great opportunity for students to accept one another and to learn from one another at that time.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mrs. Greenberg?
Approximately how many different languages are spoken in PV? It used to be in the 80s. Is it still?
Well, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Droege because he kind of keeps track of those numbers.
Approximately.
We track about 10, but there are significantly more than that. Spanish is about 98.05% of our population. The next highest language is Arabic at 0.51%. It goes down to Persian, which is the last language that we really track, at 0.21%. When you're under less than 1%, we're talking about 1 or 2 families. But there are much more than that.
Right. I mean, I just remember in the past, it's been 70 to 80 languages spoken. So, you know, we're talking, I'm thrilled we're doing this because trying to support that many languages obviously is a difficult thing to do. So as you said, this sounds like even greater steps towards being able to support all of our students. So.
And be consistent across the district, I think, is a key because we're having different experiences on different campuses.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other comments? Ms. Christensen?
Hi, thank you for this.
Yep.
I just had two questions. The term pre-emergent, emergent, I'm glad you put the definition because I was looking for that. Is that a new term from our district? Because I hadn't heard those
That's the
terms.
state's, that's the state's
okay.
proficiency terms.
Okay, and so thank you for that. And then I was just curious, do we try to put students, especially if they're not English or Spanish speakers, do we try, if we have multiple enrolled, do we try to put them in the same classroom or try to separate them? And I could see advantages for different things because you do want them to learn the English language, but I'm just curious, is that a factor or it's just regular enrollment?
I think sometimes it depends, right? As, you know, as a former principal in our district, we really did our best to have balanced classrooms, but as we got to know students, if we noticed that they needed a peer to help translate within the general education, the general classroom, we would try to pair them up with a peer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Lim?
So I'm looking at the slide and I just want to get a little clarity. So I see that it's aiming to do kind of grade level instructional material. So I'm wondering if this will be really beneficial at the high school level, because at the elementary level, we typically have more learners that are in that early emerging in that beginner stage. But as we reach high school, we have students that might be coming in that are at this stage and 99% of their peers are way beyond that. So will this help at especially the high school level, as we have students that are transitioning in much later in their education space, either their first time into education here in the U.S. or they're just coming to us for whatever reason at what is a level where we're trying to get them over the line for graduation. And I imagine there are students that have that struggle trying to get over that line for graduation.
Well, when I announced that we were going to do this adoption, I had so many teachers wanting to be a part of it because it is a need in high school for sure. They're more content at the high school level, and so they don't have that background on phonics. And so this, I think, will be very welcomed by our high school ELD teachers.
Great. And then I'll follow that up going all the way down to our littlest learners. I know this is a K through 12 adoption, but I imagine we see some of these students sooner given we have multiple Title I preschools. Do we imagine that something like this might be able to be adapted down to the preschool level, or do they already have something that they're using in that space for those pre-emerging students that are coming to us before they reach us in kindergarten?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Specifically, this one's just looking at a K-12. It's not looking at our pre-K programs, but I can think of some kits that we are piloting at our PAL primary that I think would definitely benefit our pre-K learners because they are just color words and things like that, all those basic skills you'll learn in pre-K. So that could be an option that we could look at for sure.
Great. And by no means do I want to update the committee. The committee looks great, but having that pre-K, at least opinion in some way, might be helpful in the long run, as they might be able to eventually use these materials. I know they have different standards at the pre-K level, but any pre-K level teacher will tell you they will take resources any day. So
thank you.
Anyone else? Mrs. Christensen?
I just wanted to say thank you for the committee members because it looked like there was a real diverse group and names that I hadn't seen before, also including title schools. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? I just look forward to seeing what this work, how it goes forward. I kind of think of it as we have Spanish immersion, Mandarin immersion, it's like English immersion classes, if you will. It's very exciting, and look forward to how it moves ahead.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before we adjourn, I would like to remind everyone that our next regular governing board meeting will be held on Thursday, June 18th, 2026 at 5 p.m. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. We are adjourned.